President Zelensky disclosed the number of Ukrainian soldiers who died during the 2 years of the large-scale war. It was 31,000. First, any stated number of losses without clarification won't tell you anything. No isolated figure will be exhaustive. For a number to mean something, you need to understand its structure. If you don't know the detailed structure, refrain from drawing conclusions, calling some loss data untrue, underestimated, overestimated, and so on. Your personal perceptions of losses will always be incorrect. The main problem is that different speakers operate with numbers of different structures when disclosing losses, and so we have these discrepancies. Many have already understood that there are irretrievable and there are sanitary losses, and obtaining an adequate integral figure is not easy. There will be distortions. For example, a soldier can be wounded 3 times and return to duty 3 times. So data on sanitary losses only roughly describe the situation. Therefore, any number should be perceived only as a guideline, not an absolute, but just to be able to understand an order of magnitude. And if there is a need to delve into the number, you should understand the data structure. Secondly, regarding irretrievable losses, there are different types of such losses. Some of them are combat related. For example, killed in action, captured, missed in action, died from wounds during evacuation or already in hospital, lost the ability to serve due to injuries, and so on. And there are non-combat related, died from the diseases, traffic accidents, suicides, some other accidents, removed from military service for various reasons, and so on. So, when we are speaking about irretrievable losses, not all of them are fatalities. And the figures, they highlight not only the immediate situation on the battlefield, but they also highlight the problems with discipline, problems with medical support, problems at the mobilization stage, troubles with morale, and troubles with psychological state of the soldiers. So, detailed loss structure, it allows to draw conclusions about impact of those, losses on combat readiness. So, therefore, detailed loss structure is classified. I don't know what data these 31,000 deceased figures cover. All deceased, only killed in combat. So we can guess, but I just don't see the point of it if we are speaking about only order of magnitude. And I just would like to tell that the numbers like 70,000 killed and 120,000 wounded that were thrown in during this last summer, and with which this new figure 31,000 is compared by people who are saying that it is not true. So these numbers, 70,000 killed, 120,000 wounded, they are nonsense, without any doubt. So thirdly, the cardinal difference in Ukrainian losses from Russian ones is that information about the lion's share of our losses, it is open. These figures are not promoted, but they are available. There is no censorship. Whether it is good or bad, it's a completely separate question, but the loss of each warrior is a pain, and except for very special warriors, the death of servicemen can be reported by family, by fellow countrymen, by their comrades, their brothers in arms, and different other peoples. Concealing this data is impossible for us. Most of it is tracked through open posthumous award decrees and similar things. Some people comment online along the lines of if only there was some independent count of our losses, some volunteers or some similar organization would do that. But the thing is that we already have it. For example, there was a publication made in November of 2023 by the group of authors which responsible for Book of Memory of the Fallen for Ukraine. And for example, the memory wall on Mikhailovska Square, this is also their work in collaboration with the National Military Historical Museum of the Military of Defense. So there are some inaccuracies, because there are always some inaccuracies with the public data, but the material is very illustrative, and both combat-related and non-combat related irretrievable losses are collected, and not only from armed forces, but from all defense forces of Ukraine. And you should know that Russians also collect all this data, our data, and they know the figures, but they don't broadcast them in a generalized form. They broadcast only separate emotional stories or photos from cemeteries to, stir people up. And they don't broadcast them because our real loss figures are, first, several times less than Russians, and second, several times less than what Russian propaganda throws in. So, Kremlin is not interested in broadcasting accurate data of Ukrainian losses. Russians, they very often use the mirror imaging technique. They attribute their losses to us to confuse, to create a mess of numbers. So, if we sum up all types of our irretrievable losses according to open data, including prisoners of war and missing in action, this number is currently about 50 to 55,000 people. I emphasize, this is the maximum number, and not all there are fatalities. So, one more point, fourth point. According to the group Informational Resistance, информационное сопротивление, and information from this group coincides with the figures of Russian monitoring groups. In Russia itself, so there is information about the death of more than 45,000 Russian servicemen. And it was publicly confirmed through obituaries, photos from cemeteries, some memorial events, and etc. These are those killed, and there are only a small portion that died from wounds and that suffered some non-combat accidents. So 99% of these are combat irretrievable losses. And thus, this is the minimum figure, absolutely reliable. There are names and all the necessary data. Without missing in action, without prisoners of war, without those written off due to injuries, without non-combat losses, with Crimea, but with very rare exceptions, residents of Donetsk or Lugansk and Lugansk. So, we have 50 to 55,000. This is our losses, and this is the absolute maximum. And they have 45,000, and this is the minimum figures. Russia concealed losses. The real number of killed, died, according to indirect science, should be 4 times, maybe 4 times higher than publicly disclosed. President Zelensky mentioned a figure of 180,000 killed Russian soldiers. Based on what is reported by Informational Resistance and Russian monitoring groups, a similar figure of killed may be well plausible. The order of number is definitely like that, but there may be some nuances in accounted. For example, some part of residents of Donetsk, Lugansk who formerly served in the Russian army may have been included. Or there might be not only killed Russians, but also those who died in the army for various reasons. The total irretrievable losses may be even higher, especially those written off due to severe injuries. And military experts say that Russia will lose the war if the ratio of losses is 1:5. We can make a reasonable assumption that currently the ratio of irretrievable losses is about 1 to 3.5, 1 to 4. Russians have more prisoners of war than us, but disproportionately more missing in actions. And just remember the mobile crematoria. That is, our situation is difficult, but the enemy is also under strain. The numbers refute the myth of the impossibility to defeat Russia. We are close to this brink. Therefore, I repeat, unity and concentration of forces, they are necessary, and there is definitely no hopelessness, and we need weapons. The delay in deliveries from partners has a very frightening and vivid mathematical expression. Inevitably, the ratio of losses will start to equalize, and accordingly, the chance to turn the situation around will diminish. I am sure that analysts from the main partners know all these calculations and as good as we do, and they report them to their leaders. And hence the procrastination of political decisions look even more repulsive and counterproductive. The President Zelensky noted that March-April will be very difficult. There are direct parallels with the spring of 2022. Then, the scariest month was May, when decisions on weapons had already been made, but everything on the front lines our guys were running out of everything. People should not despair. With the help of our partners, we will overcome in this fight. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your attention. If you like it, please consider subscribing, and Slava Ukraini!